Hello, my friends. So it is the beginning of March, which means I officially get to talk about all the books I read in February. Now, I have tried to film this video twice already, and I was having camera problems, and I'm just a girl, so we're gonna try this one more time. So February was a definitely busy month for me, like in my personal life, but somehow I was able to read 9 books. So 8 of those I read, and then there was 1 audiobook. So I have my reading journal that I started this year, and it actually is really nice because it shows me like all the books that I read in the order that I read them in. So we're just gonna kind of go through this together. The first book that I read was When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This book I ended up rating 3 stars, and for me it was just okay. It was longer than it should have been. It was a 690-page book, and not a lot happened. If you were to sit me down and to ask me what the plot of this book was, it's very hard to explain it because it didn't really feel like there was one plot. It just felt like there were a bunch of things that happened one after the other, and then that was it. There were some tropes in it that I wasn't expecting, so that was interesting. I think it helped keep me engaged even when it was like starting to fall flat for me. I really enjoyed the first half, but by the second half I was kind of ready for it to be over, which isn't fun, especially when you're reading a fantasy book that is talked about a lot. You want to enjoy it. The writing was really good at times, and then at other times I think it was just overdone. And then the FMC I found to be really stubborn, but not in an endearing way, but like a girl, get your shit together, you're annoying me way that just never really got better. And the MMC just cut her too much slack. I was like, dude, like stand up for yourself. So yeah, it was just okay. Definitely overhyped in my opinion. And then after that, I started the Witcher series. The first book that I read was The Last Wish. This book is essentially a collection of short stories and like side quests that Geralt goes on before the official start of the Witcher series. So this isn't book 1, this is just a prequel. And I believe there's 1 more prequel that I have to read until I get to book 1. Overall enjoyable. I rated it 3.75 stars. It was a little boring at times just because, not much happened. They're just little side quests of him killing creatures and meeting new people. But I am interested to keep reading and to see where the series goes. So I think that's really important. I am reading this with 2 coworkers. We decided to start this series at the same time. So I'm just waiting for one of them to finish this book, and then we're gonna move on to book 2. But yeah, it just really it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. It was good. It was enjoyable. So next was The City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. This one was another fantasy book that, in my opinion, is overhyped, and that fell flat for me. It was also another long fantasy book. This one was 762 pages. I enjoyed the plot of this one. There was like a genuine plot where there's a human girl named Loren, and she's being targeted for a reason that nobody knows yet. And there's a dark slayer named Darian who kind of takes her under his wing and protects her because he feels bad for her because she is essentially helpless. She's a human in this world of monsters and vampires and creatures. He helps her trying to uncover, secrets in this society. So I really enjoyed the plot. I think that is what kept me to keep going. I also liked Darian. I think he's a tad overhyped because I think I was expecting like a Xaden 0.2. He was down bad, but it wasn't like anything crazy. But yeah, no, it was enjoyable, but once I finished book 1, I didn't feel compelled to pick up book 2. I think I was just underwhelmed a bit by everything, and the writing wasn't the best. It did make it for an easy read. So I finished that book on the plane, and I still had like a 9-hour flight ahead of me. And I had brought a lot of physical books home with me from my trip, and so I was like, well, I'll just pick up one of those. So I'm gonna be so honest, I was so underprepared for the damage that this book cost me, because I had heard if you like Daisy Jones and the Six, you should pick up The Favorites by Lane Fargo, and I was like, I love me some Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love a good like sports romance. I was like, sign me up. I was so unprepared for this book. This book is easily the best book that I've read this year yet. It was a 6-star read for me. It was incredible. It's hard for me to talk about this book because it's like I have no words. Like it was so good. So this follows Katerina and Heath. They have known each other since they were kids. She kind of took him under her wing because he was in foster homes and he wasn't really being taken care of. And she met him, kind of found him. He moved in with her and her dad, and they started ice dancing together. They fell in love, and this book tells their story of them trying to make it to the Olympics and the people that they meet along the way. It tells a really gripping story about love and betrayal and obsession and winning and spite. Like, oh, it's just so many gut-wrenching things and like feelings, but it was so good. I remember reading this on the plane and I was crying, and there were times where I was like so nauseous. I would just put the book down and I was like, no, like there's no way. This book just had its hold over me, and frankly, it has not let go. Like I still think about this book every single day. It was such an incredible read. I will say, I don't know if this book is for everybody just because it is very dramatic and some characters make decisions that are very questionable and that are hard to come back from. I haven't read Magnolia Parks, but I know that if you've read and enjoyed Magnolia Parks, then you would definitely enjoy this. And I think that if you can handle humans who make mistakes and like morally great decisions, I think you would enjoy this. It's definitely not just like a fun, silly little romance read, that is for sure. There's also a Taylor Swift reference, which I know some people don't like those in books, which as a Swiftie, I can understand that because sometimes they're overdone or very repetitive. But the Taylor Swift song reference in this was so well done and so sad that I have to talk about it. So the song is The Last Time, which is in her Red album, and it's featuring Gary Lightbody. I don't think the song is super popular. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think, unless you're a Swiftie, I don't know if a lot of people know this song, but when this song was introduced, it was just so perfect to what was going on in the story that I cried. And frankly, I have cried while listening to this song, like in the car if I'm driving to work or something, because I will just think about this book and these characters while listening to that song and just break down immediately. Just, you have to give it a chance. Even if you're not a Swiftie, just you have to listen to the song and you have to give it a chance because it was so good. Just incredible. It was so good. I have to move on before I become too emotional. Okay, so after that incredible read, I started another book, but I eventually ended up picking up From Lukov with Love. I think I was just in my, I guess, like ice dancing, figure skating era. I was on Pinterest looking at inspiration photos about this book. There was one, like in the caption had From Lukov with Love, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that's a Mariana Zapata book. I was like, I love her. Once I realized that that book was about figure skating, oh yeah, sign me up. So I immediately paused on the book that I had started, picked up that book, and I devoured it. I rated that one 5 stars. Again, it was so good. Mariana Zapata is so good at writing a slow burn, writing characters who want each other, but the only way that you can tell is in like the little moments. She somehow will write all of these like little moments and small scenes, and then before you know it, you're like 200-300 pages in and you're like, oh my god, these characters are in love with each other and they don't even know it yet, or like they haven't acknowledged it. Like it's just like truly such a slow buildup, and she does it so well. There are all these like small moments between the two main characters that just scream tension and want, but it's not done in like an obvious way. It'll be like the smallest things, and she turns nothing into something. I don't know how she does it. It is just so good. There was definitely like a little bit of a bully like teasing going on between the two characters. So the FMC is Kat and the MMC is Ivan. She thinks like it's gonna be the end of her skating career. She's never really won anything and she's just like tired of it, but she doesn't want to give up yet. And then Ivan is like a decorated figure skater. He has so many medals, and his figure skating partner has to take a break. So then they end up skating together. So the story follows them and them just like falling for each other. Oh, it was done so well. It was so good. I loved it. I love me some Mariana Zapata slow burn. Yeah, that's all I have to say. And then after that, I finally picked up the other book that I had started previously, and it was The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This was a 4-star read for me Probably more like 3.75 when I think about it, but overall I enjoyed it. This follows Oriah. She is a human in a vampire world, and there are these set of trials every 2 centuries, I believe. If you win, you're granted a wish, and you essentially can get whatever you want. So she enters, basically if she wins, she wants to be just as powerful as the vampire who raised her. His name is Victor. Because she's human, she can see all of the ways that humans are mistreated, but there's not really much that she can do about it. So she wants to win so that she can be powerful and truly make a difference. She meets Rain in the trials. So this book kind of follows her journey, you know, working with Rain, the trials, and her relationship with her father, Victor. It was really enjoyable. I think I liked the plot the most out of this one, and I really liked how strong-willed Oriah was. And there was a crazy plot twist at the end of this book that was so shocking to me that I cried because I was just not expecting it. I immediately picked up the second book because I was really interested to know what was going to happen next with Oriah and with her journey. But about 20% into The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, I actually DNF'd it. And I talk about that in my last reading vlog. I ended up DNFing it because I was just frustrated with the decisions that Oriah and Rain were making, and I didn't think that the situation and the plot twist that happened in book 1, I don't think it was handled appropriately. Before I decided to DNF, I was looking at reviews and just looking at like what other people had to say, and a lot of people who had finished the book felt the same way that I was starting to feel, and I didn't want to put myself through like 400 more pages of that. So I decided to DNF it. I just wasn't in the mood. I had already read 2 other fantasy books this month that just fell flat for me and that I wasn't happy with. So I was like, I just don't want to go through this again. And so at that point, I was kind of panicking because I was entering a reading slump. I could just tell that nothing was sparking my interest. I just wasn't interested in anything that I could think of. So I saw this book and I was like, you know what, this looks good. So I picked up Say You Swear. This was very much 100% a mood read for me. I didn't know this book existed until the day prior. This book was drama, let me tell you. I felt like I was reading a Wattpad fan fiction. I was not expecting it. I wasn't expecting the love triangle as well, but regardless, I had fun with this one. It is just your typical like sports, college romance. It was a good time. It was exactly what I needed to like keep me from that reading slump. It was bingeable, it was fast-paced, it was well written enough, I think. It was cringe at times, for sure, don't get me wrong, but I still wanted to keep reading and I was still enjoying it, and it was just exactly what I needed. Noah Riley made this book 4 stars for me. If this man wasn't so down bad, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much. I needed a good old-fashioned down bad man. It was 552 pages and I read it in 2 days. I decided to stay in that like sports, college, romancy mood. I picked up The Chase. This book was also just like a very fun, easy, bingeable read. I rated this one 3 stars because there were a few things that fell flat for me. I did love Summer, the FMC. She is Dean's sister, and Dean has an entire book about himself in the Off-Campus series, which I've read that series mostly, and I've also read The Dixon Rule and The Graham Effect, so I'm super familiar with Elle Kennedy's books. You kind of always know what you're gonna get with her, and this book was no exception. Yeah, like I said, I loved Summer. She was just your good old badass feminist who was super confident, really like well-spoken and good at sticking up for others. I really liked that about her. I think she is what made this book 3 stars for me. So essentially she has to live with Dean's old hockey teammates. She has to live in like this house full of hockey boys, and she has a crush on one of them named Fitzy. So the book kind of follows this like cat and mouse, like will they, won't they. I think that part was fun. I loved the tension, but once they actually get together, there wasn't much romance. There was just a lot of spicy scenes, which I guess if you're in that mood, like if you just want something that's really easy and spicy, then I think that's a good choice. As far as like a romance goes, it wasn't very like romancy, but overall it was definitely still enjoyable. So that leaves me with the last book that I read. Technically, I read it the entire month because it was an audiobook, so I started it at the beginning of February and just kind of slowly but surely made my way through all 15 hours, almost 16 hours of this audiobook. And to be honest, I'm not like super proud of this one. So I read Five Brothers by Penelope Douglas. I did not like it. I rated it 2 stars. I've read 2 other Penelope Douglas books. I've read Corrupt and Credence, and I feel like the issues that I had with those are the same issues that I had with this one. It went a little bit more in depth than I was expecting, just about like some of the like socio-political dynamics and backgrounds between like the nice part of town and the bad part of town. So that was, I guess, interesting to read about. But this follows Christian, who comes from like the good part of town, and her experience with this family who comes from like the bad part of town. And in this family there's like 5 brothers and a sister, and so the book is just like following her experiences with them. The issues that I have with her books is that the MMC always treats the FMC terribly. Like truly bad. And like, I know there's enemies to lovers. You read fantasy books where like they will stab each other or fight each other, you know, like stuff like that. But I think because these are technically like, they're dark romances, there's no fantasy aspect. Like they could happen in real life. And so to read about these men treating these women terribly and they suffer no consequences, they're not told off really, they get away with it. And I think in real life, you hear about that or you see that so much of men getting away with treating women terribly. And I don't want to read about that too. I don't know. I don't like it. It doesn't intrigue me. I'm not attracted to that. I don't like it. And so I think that's the issue that I have with her books. So I don't think I'll be picking up any other books of hers. And look, if that is your thing, if you're able to separate how these men treat these women in these books from real life, I think that is great. I think, you know, keep enjoying them. For me, I'm just not able to separate it, and I don't want to read a book that like genuinely makes me upset. So yeah, I think just it was a 2 star. It was entertaining at times. Not that I regret listening to it, but definitely probably could have used my Spotify credit for something else. But yeah, that is my February reading wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about all the books that I read in February. At the end of the day, I'm just a girl who loves reading and who loves talking about reading and books. So if you watch this, if you're still here, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.